insane this year. We just had some really good rain for the last couple of days, so everything's kind of wet. Thought I'd go ahead and burn some of this stuff off and have a little campfire. I don't want to get too carried away though, because I only have like 6 hours before I don't want to be burning anymore. I've got my permit on my cell phone, but you have to have water to put the fire out, a rake to rake the coals, obviously, and a shovel. And then you have to man it. So I can only like sit here for so long. I'll take my chainsaw though and cut some of that stuff up over there while I'm waiting. I got a bunch of firewood over here too. Grab the hatchet. pretty big dent in the pile today, getting it ready anyway. Let this burn down, and then I'll probably throw some water on it and call it a day on that. It's about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I got some pork chops that I picked up for dinner. I'm going to do pork piccata. I haven't had that in a long time, and I got a craving for it the other day. God, that's hot. You can really feel the heat coming off of that thing. Holy smokes. Thing's heavy. Nice. You never know what kind of wind's going to kick up here in the evening, so make sure, wherever, even if you're camping, you know, at a regular campground, just make sure you get your fire all the way out. Water on it and stir it up. Old Smokey the Bear will be happy. Nice. All right, that is the end of that. Every once in a while I get a hankering for this dinner. I absolutely love the flavor. What I've got here are thin cut, center cut pork loin chops. This dish started out basically as veal piccata, but A, veal's very expensive. B, a lot of people don't like the whole process of veal. It's hard to find in stores too. So I'm going to pound this thing really, really thin. That's going to do two things. It's going to tenderize the meat drastically, but it'll also allow it to cook up very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and pound these out, and then I'll show you what they look like, and then we'll cook them off. It's really a quick meal to prepare. So when I say I want you to pound these things pretty thin, that's what it looked like before I got started. So we're working it all the way out here, about a 1/4 inch thick. This is a dish that you can feed your whole family, even though it most of the time is taken up and pounded it out like this. Because as you cook these up, you can throw them in a pan and keep them in the oven, keep them nice and warm until you're ready to finish the whole sauce up. Probably a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. That's what I use. That's the only thing I cook with is olive oil. I'll need to open up the second one because I might need more. I probably will need more. Right. So we're going to get that oil nice and hot when we're getting everything else prepped up. And by everything else, I mean the only ingredients that are going to be in this basically is going to be capers. And then we're going to flour the cutlets We'll season up the flour a little bit, but I'm not going to do anything really fancy with that. So let's get a little out on here. There we go. That's enough. What I'm going to do is give it a little pinch of salt. Give it a little shot of pepper. Then probably hit it with a little bit of garlic powder just for the flavor of garlic. Normally I season my meat. I don't season my flour because it just, you know, the flavor stays on the meat, but the sauce that I'm going to create with this is where the flavor is going to come from. So we've got these cutlets pounded out nice. We'll make sure our oil is nice and hot. Turn that up a little more. And then we're just going to take the cutlets, and I'm going to cook them one at a time here. And put a light coating of flour on the outside of them. Oh, almost forgot. There we go. I also like to take a little bit of this caper juice and pour it in while I'm cooking them, just to give them a little bit of zing. The flavor's really going to come out when we cook that up. The smell is just absolutely divine. Right, so cutlet in the pan. We'll finish that off. I'm going to cook all three of these, and then I'll show you how we finish this off. Okay, here's where it gets fun. So, a little bit of that flour stuff stuck on the bottom of here, and this is when you get to deglaze a pan. And deglaze just means nothing more than to break loose that stuff on the bottom. I think the technical term for that is fond, F-O-N-D. So to do this, I go with a dry white wine, so a Sauvignon Blanc. Because I want all of that good bits and yum stuff in there. So we're going to scrape this whole pan down. While I'm at it, I'll get the next one going. So this is fancy dining on paper plates, right? There we go. The second one on there. Then I'm going to let that cook down a bit until most of the liquid is gone, and it'll leave me a nice thick sauce to go over the top of these. I'll have a glass of white wine with dinner tonight. Don't normally drink white wine, but since I'm cooking with it, I had to buy a bottle. And I don't buy cheap wine because never cook with something you wouldn't drink by itself. That is not bad. See how that's thickening up right there? Let me zoom in so you can see it. As the liquid evaporates off, you get a nice little sauce on this. There'll be no alcohol in here when it's done, so if you don't drink and you're against drinking, you can still cook this with the wine, knowing that you're not going to have to worry about it. And then I'm going to pour this on top of that. Sauce. It's going to be yummy. And I think since I picked up a loaf of sourdough from a local baker, I'm going to toast up a couple of fresh slices of sourdough to go with this tonight. Be a nice little flavor. All right, let's give her a little taste. So delicious. Super simple to make. If you find yourself making this and you feel like there's not enough oil in the pan, feel free to add more oil to the pan, because you're just going to make a sauce out of it when it's done. If you're not a fan of pork, you can do this with chicken as well. Make chicken piccata. I think that the capers make this whole thing. I'm going to watch a movie tonight and then probably get to bed relatively early because I got a bunch of stuff I want to get done tomorrow. I'm going to finish the tile on the floor, so that'll all be set, and all I'll have left to do is grout it. And then there's trees I want to drop. I'll get that fire going early tomorrow, and just keep working on trees and keep working on brush. I did a pretty good job of knocking out part of the brush piles in both locations. I'll show you that in the morning when I get out there again. Yum. I'm going to have dinner. Dinner and a movie. Yum. It's 7:30 in the morning, and there's a sound of silence because the neighbors are gone. They've left, which means I don't hear anybody again now until, I might have a weekend or two more with them, but I won't hear anything again for a year, which is nice. Can't stand listening to that generator run 24/7. I don't know why people do that, but it's peaceful. I got a French press full of coffee, and I'm just going to kick back outside and enjoy it. Well, the neighbors have left for the summer, but the flag's not down, which means I'll probably see them again at least one more time, but it's much quieter. Now I just hear the chickens. Been sitting outside this morning, had myself a carafe of coffee from the French press. It's just gorgeous out here today. It's about 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. I was up kind of early, so I guess I'll get started working. Oh, these are the times I love when it's so peaceful out here. Look at that fireweed. Pink everywhere you look. I love it. Little update on the zucchini plants. They're loving being outside. I'm looking forward to a garden next year. I actually have a little zucchini on that one, but I don't think it got pollinated. And then the acorn squash, the one on the left's doing pretty good. The one on the right's not doing that great at all. The oregano is loving peeking through this window. I'll show you the basil on the inside. There's the oregano. I'll let the pumpkin just die. And then basil, more oregano, and more basil. I did trim off the top of that one. It was getting pretty unwieldy. I'll probably trim some of these back if I need to as well. But I'll have some fresh basil and oregano. I'll dry that out. So I'll have that for the winter. And I'm going to go out and get some eggs here in a little bit. Ward dropped off the scaffolding. So next I'm going to be looking at flipping this around and starting to run stovepipe up. I can do the outside stovepipe work before I finish everything on the inside because that piece won't adjust. I'll just have to worry about the piece that comes off on the inside that drops down into the stove for the adjustment there, which won't be that bad. It's a gorgeous morning. absolutely beautiful out today. And we got rain in the forecast. So I want to try and get some stuff done today. Got the solar panel off into the sun. Top off the charge on all the camera batteries. But knowing the way Sean falls trees, I'm going to move my truck. Hopefully that'll be safe. Fireweed everywhere. It's so pretty this year. I moved that solar panel around multiple times throughout the day just to maximize on the sun input that I have, and it is pretty mobile. And it's pretty sturdy, so I haven't had any issues with that. I fired up the OPS this morning to top off the batteries and ended up with like a 95% charge in there from yesterday. And that was after I fixed dinner and watched a couple of hours of movies. I was watching Battlestar Galactica, one of my favorite shows. So I was watching that, watched a couple episodes of it, and then watching some YouTube videos on the 32-inch flat screen. It's just much nicer and easier to watch. So my goal here today is to get the rest of these cleared out. I'm going to get this one, probably all of these right in this corner here gone. That one I'm going to fall this way just because it's a dead tree already and I don't want it to fall in the winter like this one did when we get the winds. So I'll get the rest of this cleaned up and then I'm going to try and hook up with somebody. I'll try and pull a couple of these stumps on my own. But if I can't, if it's going to be a major issue, I'll try and hook up with a friend of mine who's got a skid steer and see if I can't get him over here to give me a hand leveling this section out. I'd like to level it from here all the way across. Like I discussed before, we're looking at 24 feet this way by 12 feet this way. So if I can get a nice flat pad to start with, it's not going to be like a building structure. I mean, it is, but it's not going to be like somebody's going to be living in it. So I got a little bit of wiggle room with this, but I'd like to make it as nice as possible. If I can get a good flat surface on the bottom, I could throw some pallets on there because I'm not going to build the floor up on this section. I will build the floor up on the end, but I could throw some pallets on there and I can stack all the firewood up off the ground. So when we have the spring thaw, they won't be sitting in mud and ice and water. Nice hinge on that one. So my back cut was a little bit on the deep side, but even with it being on the deep side, it was leaning this way anyway. But this is what you want, right? So you cut in, probably cut in a bit more than you need to, but I got a really nice hinge on it, and I like when that happens. There's a log. I want these to be at least 6 inches at the top, so it's like a 6x6 post in the ground. And then I buck that one up. I'm going to haul all that off over towards the garden area for burning. So I'm going to get that cleaned out of here too. And that's what I'm going to do as I go forward with these trees. I'm going to drop them, I'm going to clean them, and I'm going to haul them off. But with every tree that comes out of there, it just opens it up even more, and it just shows you how many more dead trees are in there. So the one back behind that one there, that's got to go as well. That one's dead. Make a nice log for what I'm doing here. So now I've got 4 really big logs. So I've got the corners all set. One of the things they don't tell you about when you buy raw land is that if you cut the trees down, you have to do something with all the branches and tops. And in the case of Alaska, down here on the Kenai Peninsula, most of these trees are black spruce, at least in my area. And we've got the bark beetle that's killing off a lot of them. And there's a ton of branches on those things. So basically what I'm doing is I'm dropping the tree, cleaning everything up, getting the poles that are worthwhile. So obviously the big pole for the bottom of the woodshed, and the thinner pole for firewood. I'm getting those all set aside and cleaned up, and then I'm hauling all that stuff over to the burn pile. That I'll probably be working on all week this week as far as burning goes, because we're supposed to have rain on and off all week. But yeah, that's, I come from the lower 48. I come from the Sierra Nevadas in central California. So in the mountains above Oakdale and Modesto, up towards Sonora Pass. And it's a whole different kind of forest there, right? You've got much bigger trees, and the trees that you have much larger branches, but not as many of them. So you're not ready for this when you come up here. It's drop a tree, clean all the garbage off, haul the garbage away, use the pole. And then when I go to peel the poles, it's fighting the knots from the branches because there's so many branches in these trees. But with every one I drop and clean up, things get a little bit nicer. Opens it up even more. Towards the end of that time lapse, you saw me kind of standing off to the right hand side of the screen, and that's because I'm looking at this next big tree that I have, trying to decide which way I want to fall it. I think I can fall it across the driveway, but I want to make sure first because if I don't fall it across the driveway, it's going to fall up towards the road, and that's fine because there's plenty of room between where that tree's standing and where the road is. But it's just a hassle to get in there and clean everything up. Once you drop it. That's the issue I have with these 2 trees that are over here, which I have to get cleaned up today too. Get them out of there. And if you don't keep it cleaned up, you end up with what I have on the other side of my driveway, which is just a bunch of down trees in the middle of nowhere. And you try and walk through there and you'll break your neck. I got to get that cleaned up as well. Most of that will be firewood though. There's nothing on that side that's already down that I could really use for anything but firewood. Lots of breaks though. Staying hydrated, doing at least 1 Powerade or 1 hydration drink a day, and then a lot of water on top of that. Cut a tree down, clean it up, take a break for a couple of minutes. Cut a tree down, clean it up, take a break for a couple of minutes. It's not a marathon, or it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. There is so much in the way of trees that I have to fall here that, if I wanted to work my tail off all day long, I could. But I want to enjoy it too. I was just watching Graham over at Woodness Goodness this morning, and that's one of the comments that he made that I think a lot of people lose focus on, and I'm guilty of it myself. And then a lot of viewers kind of lose focus on it too. They're like, hey, I want this. I watch it because of this. But we're doing this. I'm doing this because I wanted to do it, and I love what I'm doing. And Graham over at Woodness Goodness, he's doing the same thing. He's building a cabin because he loves building, and he's building something for his family down the road. But we get focused on how much we accomplish every day. And I think that, that can be a bad pitfall for everybody. Just take small chunks, right? That's how do you eat a pizza? You eat it one slice at a time. How do you eat a cake? You eat it one piece at a time. How do you finish a project like this? One day at a time. Remember to stop and take a couple of minutes to enjoy what you're doing. Because if you don't, why are you doing it, right? All right, enough preaching for me. I'm going to kick back for a couple of more minutes, check a couple of more messages on last week's video, and jump onto the next tree. I'll probably cut 2 of them down because I see a skinny one I could just rip out of there real easy, and then the big one, we'll work on that. And there's a decent one behind it too. I'm at 4 nice sized poles. We'll see how many I can get done today. I don't want to spend all day doing this. I'll work till about noon, probably dropping trees, and then I want to leave myself enough time to finish the last row of mortar on the floor inside the cabin and get those last tiles secured. So this week I can go ahead and get the grout put in and be done with that part. And then I can change out the hardy backer over here like I talked about doing earlier. And maybe start, because like I said, we have rain on and off all week, maybe start tiling that back wall, kind of working back and forth. I don't really want to start sinking poles over in this area where I'm going to have the woodshed, because I'd like to get in there and clean it up first, get down to bare earth before I start digging holes. It'll be a lot easier to dig if I get that overburden, all that top stuff scraped off. But if I don't get it scraped off and I just yank the tree stumps out, then I can kind of level it out, I think. Yeah, so that's the kind of plan for the rest of the day. Finish cutting up some more trees, and then switch over to finishing off the mortar on that last row in the cabin. And then I got to head over to Brother Will's, catch a shower, shave, get cleaned up for this week's work. Laundry day tomorrow. All right, change of plans. I'm just going to take one more down today, I think. Brother Will just came by, and we were talking about all the dead trees, and I was showing him what I want to do there, and he mentioned I need to take this one down. And I've had to for a while, but I'm noticing that it's curving up at the top, and I don't like the fact that if that thing comes down, it's going to block my whole driveway and ruin my commute to work in the morning. And with the additional rain that we've had on a regular basis, or the additional wind that we've had on a regular basis, I don't want to leave that there anymore. So I'm going to cut that one down right now. And it's got a decent log on it. So I'm going to back the truck all the way up and then drop that tree and get that out of the way. Nasty one. All right, we'll clean this up. All right, let's clean up this mess. I got another log and I got a piece of trim or something out of that one. That'll be nice. I'll show you what I was talking about with it that's so cool. how it curves. I can do something with that. That worked nice. I got a bit of the tree off here still on the driveway, but most of it's clear. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was the last one. That was the other one earlier. And then the round piece over here that I'm going to do something decorative on the inside of the cabin with. But yeah, I got the road cleaned up. I still need to pull that top out of there. When I get to burning big time, I'll do that. I think I'm going to be burning quite a bit here in the fall. So for now, I think that's going to do it for tree cutting, and I'm going to mix up that last batch of mortar, get that tile set, and then head over to Brother Will's for a quick shower and clean up and shave for this week's work. So I talked about doing this last time, and I never showed you. I got this scale here, but it'll only go to 5 pounds, and I need 12.5 pounds of mortar. So I'll fill it up twice at 5 pounds and then do 2.5 pounds when I'm done. One more ounce. There we go, 5 pounds. Nice. So I use this container to measure it out. Right, so I did 1.5 quarts because I found that when I did a half a bag, 3 quarts was perfect. It tells you the instructions right on the back for what you should look at for water mixing. Get out of here. Fire up the generator and get this mixed, and then I'll bring that bucket inside and use it for cleaning up for the sponge. My tools are on there. Hopefully I didn't lose that last footage of laying those down, because all of a sudden I heard a click on my camera, and that's a bad sign that the battery's going dead. But when I got back, it was still recording. I'll find out here in a minute. So everything is laid all the way over, and now I just want to kind of clean up any spills that I had on the tile. It'll be a lot easier to clean this all up again after it dries off if I get the bulk of, most of the stuff off of here. That one there. Get this one here. So it's all set right. right, everything's cleaned up, and I just took a look to see, and yes, in fact, I lost the footage of where I was laying it all down here. So I'll just explain to you what I did there that was different. I laid the first couple of tiles down, and then I mortared the whole rest of the set, and then just laid everything down afterwards. I got to feeling a lot more confident last week when I was doing this row with laying more mortar down, plus for some reason, the thin set that I'm using, measuring it out like that, seems to stay workable longer. So it doesn't dry super fast. Where I was chunking it out of the bucket last week, or the first week when I did the first row, and then the second row I had to chunk it out of the bucket because it was already setting up. It's staying nice and pliable. I mentioned a couple of things about misses while I was doing this, and I'll show you that right now via the cell phone. Got a pretty good straight line all the way through on this side, but then here, right, I had issues with the saw. So I've got a couple of misses, but those will be covered in by the grout. And I chose to leave that there so that I would have a cleaner line at the door when I seal that door, so I won't have moisture getting in underneath there. And then, you know, stayed nice. And I don't know what I was thinking there, but yeah, I got a little bit wide on that one too. I'm really glad I put this Tyvek tape down because it has protected the floor in the areas that I wanted it to protect the floor in. That's gonna do it for me. Hey, this was, you know, it was a productive day today, and it was a productive weekend overall. I never get as much done as I want to get done. I always go in with all these huge dreams of everything I'm gonna finish, and then I can't get it all done. But I'm, you know, little pieces. Like I said earlier, when I was talking about Woodness, Goodness, and Graham, and, you know, I want to have fun while I'm doing this too. I live here, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to do during the months that I can do them. Salmon fishing last weekend was a great example of that. If you haven't checked out that video, by all means, check it out. I'll make sure it's tagged at the end of this one. But I'm really satisfied with how that goes. We're supposed to get a lot of rain this week. I'm going to try and do some more burning to clear up the mess that I have going on as far as that's concerned. I want to get this changed out so that I can go all the way from here to the window with what I'm going to do in the back. And if the rain stays through the weekend, then I'll probably start doing the back of this too. But there'll be some outdoor stuff as well. I'm Sean in Alaska. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later on. I'm pretty satisfied with this. This will be all cured should be all cured by tomorrow morning. It'll be all cured probably later on tonight before I go to bed. And then I can grout it. Nice. I love how it looks though. I'm really happy. And I got a tweak on a plan of what I'm doing back here.